Alright, welcome back to another edition of Kitten Paw thinks he knows best. What does this guy know anyway? We're going to be looking at the ParaMod strength ratings. Mork was very kind enough to make a tier maker list. I think he had to import all these crazy things here. And now we can do the ratings. I guess I should reset this. Whoa. I gotta go to the actual, not OBS. I'm so sorry. I should have done this first. I'm sorry. So we'll be looking at each of the active skills and the passive skills and then rating them using this little system I made. And so if we look, this is kind of awkward, no doubt. These are active skills I have over on the right, and we'll start with Mighty Charge because it's at the top. So you can charge in an unobstructed line that has low hit chance, but it increases your damage by half, or like twice, because you normally get plus 50% damage with the charge, so this like doubles that to 100%, and you can bypass the parry minimally. So it can counterattack, blah blah blah. And then if you master it, you get basically 3 times the charge bonus, and you get a bit more parry bypass. Okay, so what is this used by? This is used by units that bypass parry anyway. So the cult, armbands, bracers, anything that bypasses that. And because you really don't want to get parried anyway. I mean, if they're in a dodge stance, you better have good dodge bypass too. So what really happens is you want to like set up the target, ideally with a stun. And so then you're just going to not have this horrible hit chance, and you're going to actually land the attack. So, is this a lot of damage? Yes, this is a lot of damage. I agree with Mork. He did one of these 100%. That 3-9 is a bit absurd for getting this skill. It should probably be 6-12. If you look down here, I can think of a skill named Overpower that probably doesn't need to be 9-15. So it's 6-12. I'm sorry, it's currently 3-9, so it's really easy to train, which you need to put into the consider that. So, okay, I've been quite confused. It's like this. There's double of these, and one of them isn't correct because it repeats. But for now, it kind of shows that, right? So we'll just pretend this is a Mighty Charge. So I'm just putting them up here. So I would say it's pretty good. The problem is it needs to be set up. Anything that needs to be set up is going to have an issue, right? So it's good though. It's good if you set it up. It's pretty damn good damage output. The problem with charges is they also take an extra OP. So there's a spell with the Wolf Priest in particular, which reduces OP when you charge. And that's another step of setting up though, right? So if you don't set anything up, it's not good at all. It's I'm literally watching Adidumth play Griffin right now, and he did a Mighty Charge and just whiffed. So it's terrible. And then the Henchman version is just okay. It's one lower, because you still kind of need to set it up. You could take basic on a unit for a unit that is stunned without investing the full. So, but it does less damage. So it's just okay, I would say. But there's definitely like a niche for it. It's a really good damage output. All right. Next, it says here Swift Charge. I think I have these rated. Yeah, these are the 3, 9, 6, 12s, and then we'll get in the 9, 15. So Swift Charge is just like the Mighty version, except better hit chance, but you do less damage. I assume, it's not quite clear to me, but I believe charge is normally 50%. I believe this is dropping it to 40% to give you better hit chance, but you get more stance bypass. All right? And then you get even more. Now, this is easy to master. This costs 2, and this costs 2 for mastery, so you're going to get 4 total. I mean, this is not enough to make it matter, honestly. I know it's easy to master, but it's like a charge that can kind of hit better. Charges aren't the best things anyway, off the bat, because it lets the opponent dictate where your unit's going to end up, right? So the AI, they don't give a shit, but in PvP, a player will put their unit somewhere like convenient for them, where they can protect them, or it's really awkward to charge in the first place. So charges are just awkward to begin with. A lot of times, if you're fighting the AI, they're just standing out in a road, and you're going to charge out into the road and then get swamped. So you're already starting behind the curveball, 8 ball. So just having a slightly better hit chance. I mean, this gives 30% hit chance too. It gives your charge a chance to hit and maybe bypass the stance. That said, I just, it's so niche that it's hard to see like any kind of, let me see, it's a dagger with dashies. Boy, these icons are so, I don't use them often because they're pretty terrible. I would just say not good. Probably just really bad. I don't think I've ever used it on a henchman, which is usually your gold standard. And then what I wanted on a hero for 2 skill points? No, I really wouldn't. Charges just aren't that good unless you know you're going to land the charge, in my opinion. Because they cost an extra OP, right? So, I mean, they really need to matter. And then again, it puts you out of position a lot of times. So the real only like kind of, you have some active skills here now. Kidney strike and strong blow. So kidney strike, it feels like a weapon skill kind of thing, but here it is just sitting in strength. It's been redesigned, I believe. It used to reduce melee resistance. So if you would hopefully hit the unit, you would then continue to hit the unit more, which is awkward as hell in vanilla. I think these were tweaked too a bit. So now it's been changed to something more logical. If you can hit the unit, now you're going to help your ranged units hit the unit. And okay, maybe that's not powerful enough. So on top of it, it's going to take away dodge and parry chance. So it's kind of 2 skills smushed into one. So having dodge and parry chance bypass is usually a pretty good thing to have. If your opponent's going to be in these stances, it's nice to bypass them. And 30%'s 20% is the basic, and 30%, that's mastery. That's kind of spear levels, and the spear is like the gold standard of bypassing. Another way to look at it is there's a 15 accuracy passive that does 30% called weak spot. Like, that's a big investment and not a great skill or stat. So in that sense, I realize you have to spend 1 OP to do it. 1 OP. But once you land it, it's good for 3 turns. And the basic version is quite strong in its own right. It has this 2-3 thing that the mod is a lot of. So for just 2 skill points, I mean, Mork was talking about this, and I didn't realize it was 20 and 30. I thought it was more like going to be 15%. The basic is pretty good, and mastery is also pretty good. I mean, but I kind of feel like for such a small, and I know you can stack them, but this feels like it should be easy to master. I'll be honest, since the basic's so good. That said, it's tough, but if you're going to do it, it's a warband you want to do it on. The number 1 warband I would say would be Mercs. And I had an opponent use this against me, and he had Mercs, and it worked very well for him. It guarantees you're landing your shots, right? Basically, the mastery version removes the engagement penalty. Because when you're engaged, you instantly gain a 30% ranged resistance bonus. So it negates that. And that's cool in itself. And then if you consider the dodge and parry chance bypass, that's great too. Well, why do I like this as well? There's a skill, Daredevil, that allows free dodges. And so this is perfect in a Daredevil build as well, which the Mercs can do, especially with the Warlock. He has Armor of Lead, which reduces your dodge chance. You throw on a Kidney Strike. The champion can actually get 15 accuracy for that weak spot as well while having good weapon skill. So you're looking at like a champion that can reliably, after a Kidney Strike, land a lot of Daredevil attacks. And I've not seen this build yet, and I think it's a pretty good build. Toss in that arm of lead, right? You're doing really good. So, blah, blah, blah. I think basic. Let's see, it's this little bloody one. I think it's good and good. I don't know. They both kind of do the same thing. You could almost move that to great because of the 20%, which is 2/3 for just a third of the cost, right? That's pretty good. A third of the cost in skill points for 2/3 of the result. That's pretty fucking good. And I think it's great because it does what it does. You know what I mean? Like, if you're using this, it's doing exactly what you want it to do within your warband style. Either you're doing a daredevil build or you're doing a lot of ranged. So I think it's a niche, which keeps it from here. But it's like, if you want that niche, it's doing its job, right? And there's not really setup per se. You're setting up someone else, which is what we were talking about. This one needs setup. You're setting up someone else, again, which is what keeps it from here. But I think it's pretty good skills. The second team that would take it, I would say, are like Skaven. Skaven have Black Hunger. They use a lot of spears. They have a lot of Daredevil, Weak Spot. And so it synergizes with them. The other thing that Skaven want to do a lot of is poisons. And poisons are usually ranged based. So you want to land these ranged poisons on a variety of units, not keep trying to throw out the same one. So if you can kidney strike and then throw your shuriken, which has plus hit chance too, I think it's really nice for Skaven and mercs. Another one could be witch hunters. They really struggle to hit with ranged crossbow pistols and stuff. So it's very good ranged, better hit chance for those crossbow pistols. Sisters, it's absolute pretty much dog shit. Right? The cult has less skill points. They maybe probably don't want to invest in it. And they have that cloud from the Magister, reduces range resistance. So they have other tools. So I don't think the cult's going to get much use out of it. Sisters, trash. And undead don't have really good daredevil bypass, so it could be useful for them, and they do have ranged. So I think there's a use there. That takes us to strong blow. This was like the gold standard in vanilla. Everyone just took strong blow. Because I think the math was like it was always better to strong blow. And you just had the extra parry bypass. So I believe he's reduced the damage and tried it more of a parry bypass. So like all the henchmen always took this. Do they take it anymore? No, not really. So I don't know. The math is, we've done the math. He's done the math. It should in theory be worth it. But for some reason it just feels worse when you have things like kidney strike right next to it, where you can get like team-wide tangible benefits, right? We just talked about parry chance. I can drop your parry chance by 20% for everybody. Or I could drop it by 30% for one attack. Like, come on. And then you add in the range resistance. Now there's this smidge of a bit more damage, but when you're talking about like a henchman with like a mace or a fucking spear, you're talking about like single digits of damage. So, and then you're going to add rush, adrenaline rush, to maybe do something again the next turn, like with your next attack. It's really, you're doing more damage to yourself than to your opponent. So I think it's really fallen pretty far. Now the mastery, 60% is pretty good. But I still feel like if you're going to invest in all of this, you really, really want some good parry. Like, it should almost be like completely bypasses parry, or like 100%. So you'd have to have a bad roll to get parried. And I know there's the damage too, though. But like, it's very niche, so the cult never wants it. There's only certain units that know they're going to go against web and then use it. So I just think it's like a little too niche, and what it does isn't that great. So I think this one's just bad. It's almost really bad. And the mastery is probably just not good, honestly. Its use window is way too narrow. You need to know a unit is in parry or you're getting, that's where you get the 60% more damage, but it's almost better to just not use the OP. It's like really bad with two-handed weapons, right? Because you're going to run out of OP to do a third attack. So in theory, you can maybe strong blow, normal blow, but then I think you need mastery adrenaline rush, right? So it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's not good. I think the narrow use window is one of the bigger issues. And then there's easier ways to get damage, like Mighty Charge or Daredevil, which we're about to talk about. Which is Daredevil. Right here. We'll bring in Overpower. So, Daredevil. This is a staple in vanilla. It did much more damage. I like the change of it, because now it's a bit more risky. Daredevil you had to do every turn. So like Henchman never used it. You would Daredevil and then attack once. It's like, what am I doing? This is pointless. And then the Mastery did like 225% more damage. You could just absolutely shit on a unit and then order it. You would always order it after using Daredevil. So it was like very good in vanilla. So the damage has been nerfed. Probably needed it. But then its reward is now it lasts 2 and 3 turns, which is good. That's great. You can keep it going, but it's also a lot more strategic now. Like you can't undo this. So once you use it, if you get stuck against the dodge unit, like you're kind of fucked. And so the basic I think is pretty viable now too, especially for like a hero. Maybe you don't want to fully invest in the Mastery Daredevil and you want it to maybe fall off a little sooner. Right, so the Assassin Adept is a unit I think it really works for. They struggle to get 15 strength. But like a Sister Superior, you can pop it on too. And then like fall out of it if you don't need it. Use it as needed. But then you got to use the 3 OP every 2 turns instead of every 3, right? So there's like some strategy. It's a lot more strategic. And builds were like just made around Daredevil. They really are. So I would say the basics okay. It's okay. It's got, again, a narrow use window. You still really don't see henchmen using it that much. They can, for sure. But henchmen usually struggle with stances. So if you're going to, use Daredevil, and then it's your turn, you either get 1 attack off, or the next turn you'll get 2 attacks off, but you're usually then smacked by a Web of Steel or dodge, and then you've done nothing. So I think it's a struggle. So I still think it's not the greatest on henchmen, but it's okay with like heroes. And I think it's pretty great still as the standard like melee damage boosting skill in the game. And again, it's only great because you have to build around it. Usually takes secondary skills. There's strategy to it. It's not like you just use it and it's amazing. Like that's what this tier should be. So it's right there with kind of with the Mighty Charge and having to be set up. I think it's easier to set up than a Mighty Charge, getting the stuns, which is why it's probably a tier above. So that's kind of the gold standard. And strength should be doing good damage, so that's what it's there for, right? Which brings us to Overpower. I can't remember how much this was reworked from vanilla. Maybe it's exactly the same. But Headshot and Overpower have different values. I think even in the mod for some reason. So the ranged version is easier to land. Even though it's easier to land also because you're not in combat. Like, it has more range, right? Like, it's literally, the math is easier to land, the reduced hit chance. But it's also like, you don't have to put your body on the line. You could do it from 30 meters away, right? And then, like, you don't have to get through stances and shit. You just either shoot the person or you don't. Overpower, you have to walk into combat, and then you have to have a lower hit chance, and then you have to worry if they're in a stance or not. And then you also have a stun check. Like, that is 3 separate rolls for the melee Overpower to work. Your first one's going to fail most of the time. Minus 40% is ridiculous. You're going to really struggle. Let's say you get lucky. All right, you landed your 60% or something. Were they in a stance? Oh shit, they were in web. So this is fucked. So the second worst thing is it's 4 OP, and a henchman takes it because we're looking at basic. I mean, a hero can, but it's why would they take it at minus 40? So you only get 5 OP. Let's say you just swing to try to break a stance, then you still have to use adrenaline rush and then overpower, and they could still be in this stance. So it's just trash. It's absolutely trash, and it needs fixed, I would say. And I brought it up on the Discord, and I don't know. It's just hasn't gone anywhere, but it's definitely awful. It's absolutely awful. It needs to either guarantee you're bypassing the stance, which is a bit silly, reduce the hit chance penalty, which is kind of silly too, or like tweak the OP, or if you're going to land it, make sure there's no stun check. And anyone could say, well, all of these are kind of overpowered in a way, but at the end of the day, it's ironic because it's the name. A stun still doesn't really do anything. Like, the unit has to have a stun recovery, which they don't even have to have with other passives. And then it just means you can like guarantee land the hits that are coming, which a lot of times if you're landing overpower, you're probably landing the hits on this victim. And then it gives 20% extra crit chance, which if you're not a crit build, that's not amazing. But it sets up like the Mighty charges, right? But keep in mind that this is the 9-15 skill. It is a huge investment on this. And it's just not working. It just really isn't. I tried it. I tried it on a Mercs warband, which is the best warband to use it on with a warrior, because if he like misses, he kind of gains hit chance. But if you're missing, you're fucking miserable anyway. So by the time you're like rewarded, it's like, well, I have 40 HP left, but hey, I'm landing it now, right? And then if you take the Lad's Got Talent version of the warrior and take this and build it up, you have better hit chance, but you still need to invest in like insult or some other skills to make it land. So it's a skill that has to land the roll, it has to bypass the stance, then it has to bypass stun. So there's 3 fucking rolls on it. And it also takes investment, and it's also OP expensive and difficult to use. And it ultimately doesn't even fucking do that much. So it's pretty terrible. This one's only a little higher because it's better hit chance, and the skills invested do actually give you some return in it. It's still minus 20, but it's still terrible. But it's slightly better. Slightly. I think it just needs to like bypass stun resistance. If you're using it and you land it, the unit should fucking drop to its knees. Maybe that's what it needs. I can't remember other suggestions we talked about. But that's overpower. One of the worst skills in the game for sure. I don't think we'll see too many in that tier. So now we get to passives. I think I have these in order too, yeah. So the passives for strength starts with Blitz, increases the range of ambush attacks by 3. Trivial to train. Doesn't cost anything. It's free. Another one only costs 2. That's great, right? The thing is, it's an ambush. In PvP, ambushes can be really dangerous. You can lose the match, unfortunately. It's actually it's a shame because it takes away a lot of the tactics. In PvE, you can use it, but like you don't want to ambush somewhere where you need 9, 12 meters to ambush, because what you're going to do is take your unit and run it that much further from the rest of your warband in a straight line out into nowhere. What you usually always do is ambush like a doorway to a building, which doesn't need 12 meters of ambush range. You know, it's right there. It's the door. So it's extremely niche, which is why it's also very free. But out of all the free skills, that's still definitely one I would I would not probably take or consider. What is it? It's this dagger into an explosion. I'm sorry, just pulling them out. I would say it's just bad. It's free and like bad. Honestly, like probably really bad because what's the point of having more? But I get it's hard to like it's hard to redesign, right? Like how do you redesign it? I would say it's really bad. It's just very niche and not useful, and it will just kill your own units. Ambush is the best way to kill your own units off. Bull charge is the flip side. That's an active charge attack. It's got the same 0-2 cost. They're only 3 and 9, so it's very easy to change. Basically, anyone can get basic, which is also free. So that's a great thing. Charge, again, it falls into the same problem. In PvP, people aren't just going to be standing out in the open most of the time. The AI will be. Charging also is pretty bad because 97% of the time, the unit you're charging into will have counterattacks. Either it's the first turn and they just have 2 pills, or the AI is just standing there, moved around, and they're standing there with all of their pills, and so they'll counterattack you. So you're guaranteed to be counterattacked, and that's not great. And then you might be out in the open again, right? So basically, I'm just talking about charges in general, just aren't that great. Unless you're doing like this mighty charge stuff, right? And at that point, you've used your slot on mighty, you're using mighty charges or other things. So it is free, so I think it's okay because it's free. And it's nice because you can overcharge an ambush. If a unit's staying there in an ambush, you can charge over it, which is a good thing. So that said, you can like overcharge an ambush. Most likely you'll get counterattack still, unless you will. I mean, because a unit can't be an ambush and not have all its OP unless it was a caster and casted a bunch, right? But you're going to charge, get counterattacked, then you can disengage and like pull back in. So in that sense, it's kind of useful, which is also why it's okay. But I still think I would much rather prefer other passives, free passives, than this one, which we'll talk about maybe at a later point. So I still think it's just kind of okay. And then the mastery is just bad. I don't want to say it's really bad. Maybe there's some meme charger build you want to do. Charge across the map. I don't know. It's really bad. It's not, like, the 2 skill points aren't worth it, honestly. This one's just plenty. Like, what are you gonna run across the map at? And then that takes us to Strider and Surprise. These are very similar to, oh no. I must be missing. The other one's down here maybe. But these, you'll notice a theme with the ambushes and the charges. So Strider increases hit chance of charge attacks. It takes 2, and then Mastery is also 2 for 20% more. Okay, so this guy's back to like Mighty Charge and stuff. Well, why don't you just take Strider? Okay, sure, but you're using even more skill points to try to make Mighty Charge better, which is still like kind of needs niche things to work. Like some of the best charging units can't disengage, like a Possessed, an Impressive, a Marauder, a Purifier. Like they charge and then they're stuck in there. They're stuck. So it's like very small use window. You get to tease it like once, and that's kind of it. There's ways around, and there's some units that can disengage. But again, it's just like it's awkward to invest in. What it does is decent, so it's good enough. Damn, I have to see. It's got an up arrow dagger thing. So I think it's okay. And then I would say it's okay. It's just not that great. If you want to make a build with it, you can. I think it's still just easier to take other skills. You can stack it. Like you can have a wolf priest just cast the spell that increases hit chance, but then you can't disengage. That's another one. But if it's a unit that can't disengage, You can take combat focus, which increases hit chance. There's the witch hunters have one to increase hit chance. So it's okay. I would just say it's okay. It's okay to be okay. Surprise, increase the critical hit chance of ambushes. Again, you don't really want to ambush. It's 2 and 2. It's the dagger thingy here. I think it's bad because you just don't want to ambush crit people. I mean, if you can, it's actually like, okay, let me think about this. There is the Brethren on the Cultist where he has increased crit chance. I'll say it's okay, honestly. Let me look at this. I'm pretty sure. Now I kind of want to look at this guy. If we look at the Brethren, his Lurker increased chance to critical hit with an Overwatch or ambush by 20%. So you can see where that's like can stack and is really good for him. So on this one unit, I think it's really good. Because if you can ambush, knock someone unconscious, they don't get to use any of their attacks and they're just laying there and you can bash their head in. So I think that's good with the caveat of only with the Brethren. Like, how do you rank that, right? Like, these are good with the Brethren. Otherwise, again, and it's good to ambush or Overwatch crit somebody. That's really good because it ends their turn where they maybe don't want to be and you can just gang rape them. So that's good. But it's also like you're going to get one use and your unit might be out of the way. If you can ambush, do this on someone in the doorway, that's great. So I think it's good. I think it's a good skill to have, especially on the Brethren. And on certain builds, I could see where you get use out of it. So then you have armor proficient and what is it? Assault. So there's that one. Oh, you know what? I think the other one's under agility, the hit chance, which gets awkward, right? Because you have the crit chance and then you have the hit chance under agility. It's hard to get both. Armor proficient. Reduce heavy armor movement penalty by 1, remove by 2, and then get 5%. So henchman can only remove 1 meter, and heavy armor always adds 2. And then a hero can remove all of the penalty and then is rewarded with 5% more. Okay, so armor's like the best thing in this game. It's the best way to negate damage to your units. So armor's really good. And the penalty to movement is bad because movement's also really good in this game. So in that sense, armor proficient is good to have. The game's kind of moved to where everyone's just kind of using leather now because he also moved it from 9 to 15 in the mod. And that's really hard on sisters and mercs in particular. Like, they used to have a lot of heavy armor, but now they're really restricted to, like, light. It's almost like heavy on paper. But, like, the Sister Superior and the Matriarch used to always wear heavy armor. Now when they wear it, they usually do Knowledge of Mordheim. Not Knowledge of Mordheim. Yeah, Knowledge of Mordheim to remove the penalty. So they get the movement back, but it's through that. So armor proficient in the mod's kind of fallen off a bit. It's really hard to reach. And then, like, your reward isn't that great. Part of me almost wants to see... It'd be nice if it went back to where it was. It kind of would be. At 6 and 12. Paranoia is worried everyone had armor and it was affecting things and blah, blah, blah. But then he also nerfed armor perforation weapons, so figure that one out. So, like, making it harder to get armor and then nerfing the armor perforation weapons is kind of the leveling, the balancing there. So since he did that, I'd actually really like to see increases armor absorption by 5% for basic and then maybe increases by 10% for mastery. I think that would be worth it because it'd make people really double think about Knowledge of Mordheim versus armor. Then you'd really be like, no, yeah, I want armor proficient over Knowledge of Mordheim. Because I think a lot of times people just take Knowledge of Mordheim instead. Because the carrot on the stick just isn't good enough. That said, If you're going to use armor, it's pretty great. And if you're a henchman, it's pretty good. And you could always take basic and then basic knowledge of Mordheim and then get the penalty gone. You've used 2 passive slots. There's some scenarios in builds where you do that, where you're heavy on the actives. So I kind of want to move it down a little bit, actually. I'd say it's good. It could be better. I think it should be 10% and then 5%. Since he made the requirements higher, I think you got to give a little more into the skill because you made it cost more. And then the last one is Assault. Increases critical hit chance of charge attacks by 10 and 20. Interesting. That's 1530. Never really noticed this. So the ambush is worth more. I guess it has to do with pulling you out to where you don't want to be. And this one is not easy to master. And then I also don't know what it is, so we're going to pretend it's whatever. This might be Mighty Charge, but we're just going to call this Assault. Because I actually don't know. I think this is actually Mighty Charge, though. It's okay. So there's some builds. I've been playing with it with the Mighty Charge. If you've stunned headshot the unit, you can critically hit them. There's also the Smuggler has a skill, I think Boarding Prowess. Boarding Prowess. And it's going to sound a lot like the Brethren, but it increases critical hit chances of charges by 20%. So you stack Boarding Prowess with Assault. You get yourself plus 40% hit chance. Plus they're stunned. You have 60% hit chance. You start to see where that goes. Problem is it's a shitty ass smuggler. And she's not going to do any damage. but pretty cool to stack those. That said, other units, I think it's kind of a struggle. So this one I think is not very good because there's not really a charge crit build like there was the Lurker. I'd almost say it's bad. Because if there's a charge-based critter, say you made the Norse charge, like have a better crit chance, okay. Well, he's a hero anyway. But maybe you mix that in, right? And then this one's just maybe okay. So there are our ratings. So there's nothing godly or elite in strength, and I would say that for sure. There's a couple great things. Daredevil, you build around. Kidney Strike, really good on a henchman in the certain warbands. So again, it's a niche, but it's really good in its niche. This is basically for the Lurker, and because with the Brethren, and if you get an ambush crit, it's really good. But again, it's niche. So that's the caveat with these. Armor proficient, if you want armor, okay. Again, a niche, and a niche, you need headshots. You're starting to get into like niche things, which is okay. And you have some terribly awful things. So the mastery charging and ambushing kind of range things, like what are you doing, you know? You're just killing your units. These are just terrible. And again, these icons are really awkward to see and use. So that's how I would rate the strength skills. I believe he did a toughness one, which I think I like a lot more toughness skills. And we're building some other ones. So I'll have to set them up to restream it because I think I want to put these on YouTube. So I'll leave it at that. I'll reset them up and try to do a toughness one here shortly. So thank you for watching, and maybe we'll see you then.